Hi everyone, welcome back to SpeakUp Scholars. आज हम बात करने वाले हैं एक बहुत important debate skill के बारे में, weighing or impact analysis. Now, here's something a lot of debaters don't realize at first. You can have amazing arguments, great examples, and you can even speak really confidently. But if you don't explain why your argument matters more than the other side's, you will still lose the round. And that's because debate सिर्फ बोलने का game नहीं है, ये decision making का game है. At the end of the round, the judge is sitting there thinking, both arguments were good, but who actually wins? And your job is to make that decision easy. आप judge को guide करते हो, कैसे decision लेना है. So today we're going to break this down step by step. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what weighing is, the 4 most important types of weighing, how to use weighing inside your speeches, and how to sound more strategic and advanced as a debater. Now, what is weighing? Let's start with the foundation. Weighing का मतलब होता है दो arguments को compare करना और बताना कौन सा ज़्यादा important है और क्यों. Think about it like this. In a debate, both sides are making claims. One side might say, this policy improves the economy. The other side might say, this policy protects lives. Now, both sound good, right? But the judge can't vote for both sides. It doesn't matter. If you don't answer which matters more, the judge has to guess. So the real question becomes, which impact matters more? And guessing is where rounds are lost. You do not want your judge to guess. इसलिए weighing ज़रूरी है क्योंकि आप जज को बताते हो क्या सबसे ज़्यादा important है. Weighing is what turns a good speech into a winning speech. Now guys, just to reiterate, you never want to leave it up to your judge to guess whose argument was more impactful. You want to make it very clear, and that is why you weigh. Now, before we move on, we're going to do a little activity. So I propose to you a question. What's more important? Improving the economy, one world, or saving lives in another world? Completely different worlds, but similar problems that are impactful in the same way. Write your answer and one reason. Pause karo, likho, fir wapas aao. Okay guys, now that you're back, we're going to go over the 4 types of weighing. Now, there are 4 main ways debaters compare impacts. If you master these 4, you can win a lot more rounds. First, let's go over magnitude. Magnitude का मतलब है impact कितने बड़ा है. Are we talking about something small or something huge? For example, this policy makes people slightly happier versus this policy saves thousands of lives. Clearly, saving lives has a bigger impact than making people a little bit more happy than they already are. जितने बड़ा impact होगा, उतना ज़्यादा होगा. And here's the key. Judges care about how serious something is. Saving lives will almost always outweigh minor benefits. Now next, we're going to move on to scope. Scope का मतलब है कितने लोगों पर effect पड़ता है. For example, one argument helps 500 people. Another helps 5 million people. Even if both arguments are good, the second one affects more people. So under the weighing mechanism of scope, the second one that affects 5 million people wins. ज़्यादा लोग equals ज़्यादा importance. But here's where it gets a little bit interesting and maybe a little bit confusing, but I'll explain. Sometimes a small group with a very serious harm can outweigh a large group with a very small benefit. And that's where you combine scope with magnitude. Scope is how many people it affects. Magnitude is the weight of that impact. Now let's say a small group is completely wiped out by genocide, but a large group is given chocolate every day, and that makes them a little bit more happier. Obviously, that genocide of that small group of people matters more than the people who are given chocolate every day. Now, we're going to go over our third weighing mechanism of probability. Probability का मतलब है ये actually होगा ये नहीं. For example, this might happen in some rare few cases, or this will definitely happen. Even if the first impact is big, it's unlikely. So that means, therefore, it's weaker. जो चीज़ ज़्यादा likely है, वो ज़्यादा strong होता है. In debate, certainty is powerful. Judges trust arguments that feel realistic and inevitable. If you say something is bound to happen, something is going to happen, versus it'll probably happen, your first argument will have so much more weight. And now we're going to go over time frame. Time frame का मतलब है impact कब होएगा. When does it happen? For example, the harm happens immediately, or the harm happens in 30 to 50 years. Now, there's a huge difference in the time frames of those two. And most of the time, immediate impact matters more. जो जल्दी होता है, वो ज़्यादा urgent होता है. Because judges think, why should I prioritize something that's far away when harm is happening right now? Now think about this. We see poverty in our world right now. And sure, your opponent might argue that there's going to be poverty in the future and that's what we're trying to solve for. But we should focus on fixing the problems that exist in our world currently. That is what time frame is arguing for minimizing immediate impacts. Okay, so guys, this is just an overview of everything we just discussed, but now we are going to go on to a little activity. Now, after I propose to you the scenario, you're going to want to pause the video. First, argument A, you saved 10,000 lives in 20 years. Or argument B, you saved 2,000 lives right now. Now, which argument is stronger? You have to use magnitude and time frame to decipher it, but also, there's no perfect answer. It depends on how you weigh the tools against each other. That's the whole point. You get to make the argument. Now, pause करो or decide करो. कौन से जीत रहा है और क्यों? Okay guys, now that you're back, we're going to go on to how to actually weigh in your speech. Now, let's make this practical, because honestly, it can be kind of confusing. A lot of debaters understand weighing, but they don't actually say it in their speech. So here's a simple structure you can memorize. Even if what they say, blah, 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 is true, our argument matters more because blah, blah, blah. After the our argument matters more, you use your weighing mechanism and incorporate it into your reasoning. This format is powerful because it acknowledges the other side and then still wins the comparison. So for example, even if the opposition improves the economy, our argument matters more because it saves lives, which has a greater magnitude and it's more urgent because we are solving for immediate impact. You need to explain clearly, name your weighing tool, and most debaters skip this part. That's why they rule. That's the third of the 3 steps. Your first step is comparing directly and using weighing. So you want to make sure you acknowledge the other side. That shows that you were actually listening and participating in the debate and you know what you're talking about. Next, you want to use one of those weighing mechanisms I just told you about in this video. And third, once again, you need to name your weighing tool. Judge, I am using time frame because blah, blah, blah. Therefore, this happens. We are minimizing this impact. So it's very important that you don't forget these 3 steps, and definitely don't skip step number 3. Now, we're going to go over why this formula works. Because when you compare directly, you're not just defending yourself. You're arguing against your opponent's points, which shows the judge that you're pulling more weight in this debate. And when you name the tool of magnitude and time frame, that leads to step 3 of you being clear. You're never vague, but you're always decisive. You always know what you're talking about, and that shows a lot of strength in debate. Now, I'm going to want you to pause the video right here. We'll go over the slide when we come back, but complete this sentence. Even if the other side is correct, our argument matters more because blah, blah, blah. Now make sure you use at least one of magnitude, scope, probability, and time frame. Liko, practice karo, fir wapas aao. Okay guys, now that you're back, we're gonna go over meta weighing. What if both sides weigh differently? You might say magnitude matters more. Your opponent might say probability matters more. Now, this is meta weighing, where you're comparing the 2 weighing mechanisms against each other. Something that you might say is magnitude outweighs probability, because even if something is somewhat likely, it's catastrophic, it still matters more. The magnitude of the situation, even if a 0.1% of likelihood is there, matters more than the probability. You want to argue the weighing mechanisms if you have different weighing mechanisms, and then you want to argue the argument itself. Or another strategy is you could just go under the weighing mechanism. You can say, I win under my weighing mechanism of magnitude, and I also weigh under my opponent's weighing mechanism of probability because of blah, blah, blah. Again, let's go back to the magnitude and probability situation. Your weighing mechanism is magnitude, your opponent's is probability. You can say, I win under magnitude because we're saving the most amount of lives, and we also win under probability because we know that lives are going to be impacted in the near future by 3%. And that 3%, if we're saving only 3% of lives, it still matters and we still win, judge. So that's very important when it comes to meta weighing. Now we're going to go over our winning formula. You were provided with 4 weighing tools, although there are multiple on the internet which you can go and research right now. But I gave you magnitude, scope, probability, and time frame. 1 power phrase, even if they said blah, 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 our argument matters more because blah, blah, blah. You want to show the judge the impact. Now, step 0, there's 0 guesswork for the judge. If you weigh well, the decision becomes obvious because the judge knows that due to your impact, they should vote for you. You don't just make arguments, you compare them, prioritize them, weigh them, and then you won't just speak, you'll win. अगर आप weigh नहीं करते हैं, judge को खुद ही decide करना पड़ता है. So that is a risk you don't want to take. You don't want to leave it up to your judge, especially if you have a parent judge and they don't know what they're doing. So the next time you're in a debate, don't just make arguments. Compare them, prioritize them, and weigh them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next session.